Okay, can everyone hear me? Everyone okay? Yeah, good. All right. So my name is George Horlock. I'm an animal rights activist, and I'm also an organiser at Sussex Animal Save. I want to talk briefly about what the Save movement is, and then we've got a few more slides to come after that. So the Save movement was founded in 2010 by a lady called Anita Crines and her dog, Mr. Bean. Okay. So they were basically just out one day and they saw a truck full of pigs. And she sort of just saw them as numbers to start with, not individuals, and was appalled by how many there were. She wanted to bear witness in her own terms. She wanted to say goodbye to the animals, which she did. And since then, it's just grown and grown and grown. And it now comprises of over 550 plus groups worldwide. And Sussex Animal Save, which is the one I'm a part of, are very proud to be a part of that movement. So Sussex Animal Save started in 2017. My good friend, Mark, who isn't here today, unfortunately, due to a sickness, was meant to be doing this with me, so I'm kind of having to speak on his behalf. He's the one who sort of became the first organiser for it. And he called up a local farm in a kind of stereotypical farmer's accent, which apparently didn't go down very well. And he just asked what animals were killed there on the weekdays. And they confirmed to him that they would only kill on the Mondays. So him and a friend of his went to this farm on the Monday to track it out and see what went on. And he's described it to me very well. I'm going to try and explain it as best as I can. He remembers it being a very dull day, not really much was going on, in this sort of picturesque sort of farm. It had sort of luscious fields, lots of animals that looked free, like donkeys and cows and pigs sort of just trotting around. And there was this sort of like winey road that went down to the end. And then at about 6 a.m. the first truck came and it was full of pigs. And it went down onto the farm below. Now this farm is a cafe, Tuesday to Sunday, and on the Mondays they close to kill animals. He said that he heard the screams. He said it was one of the worst things that he's ever heard. And that motivated him to start Sussex Animal Save and become a dedicated organiser. About a year later, he asked me to join him. I did so, and I want to share some of the stories with you today. So that leads me on to what is a vigil? So there's a few people here that might not even know what a vigil is. So just before I get onto that, can we just have a raise of hands? How many people sat here today are currently vegan? Okay, pretty much all of you, that's great. All right, lovely. Hands up if you are currently an activist. Okay, very good, very nice. And hands up if you're not vegan. I'm not going to hurt you, don't worry, that's fine. And put your hands up if you just didn't bother putting your hands up at all. One, no. Okay, all right, great. So that would have been me about a year ago, to be fair. So what is a vigil? So I'm going to try to explain it to you. So what I'm trying to do here is sort of promote people, promote Sussex Animal Save, and for people who haven't gone to a vigil before, promote this and get people on board with coming along to one, because it's very important, which I'll get onto that a bit later. So what takes place at a vigil? Well, we all arrive at a certain time. It's usually around 6 a.m., 6 or 7. And we'll stand in a line with pro-vegan placards, okay, with pictures of various animals on their way to be slaughtered. And we will stand in this line, we'll stand strong so that passers-by can read the pro-vegan signs and come up and inquire and ask questions. And then the trucks arrive with the animals and we slow walk the trucks in. Eventually the trucks will stop, and that's when bearing witness occurs. So what is bearing witness? Now bearing witness differs from person to person. So for me, personally, what I like to do is I approach the truck and I will take some footage on my phone and later upload that to social media so that people can make the connection with not what they're eating, but actually who they're eating. They can look into the eyes of the animals and see that they didn't want to die and that they had an interest in living. And we've seen some horrific sights over the years, we really have. That's what I like to do. Other people like to just do their own thing. Some people don't like filming whatsoever, and they'll simply go up to the truck and put a hand on the side or on the animal and say sorry in their own way, connect with their energy, and do whatever feels right in the moment, and that's absolutely fine. Some people don't want anything to do with it, and they'll just continue to stay in the line, and they'll hold the placards, and they just don't want anything to do with it, and that's absolutely fine. So it's really up to you. And then, unfortunately, I wish we could stay there forever, but we do have to depart, and that's when the truck goes down to the slaughterhouse, and that's when the animals are killed. Sometimes you hear it, sometimes you don't. But every hour we'll hold a 2-minute silence. I believe that this is a really important thing to do. We come together strong and united, and we'll sort of close our eyes, and we'll just remember the victims, we'll remember the faces, and we'll think about what we just saw. And then after that, we just continue this procedure for around 4 to 5 hours. And that, kind of in a nutshell, is what a vigil is. So anyone who's looking to get into going to vigils, that's something to bear in mind. So I want to read you now a quote. It's by a 19th century author called Leo Tolstoy, and he had this to say. He said, "When the suffering of another animal causes you to feel pain, do not submit to the initial desire to flee from the suffering one, but on the contrary, come close as you can to them who suffers, and try to help them." I think this is really powerful, and this is exactly what we do when we go to the vigils. We try to come as close as we can, we try to understand them, we try to take on their pain, and we try to do them some sort of justice. So how effective is bearing witness? Bearing witness is so effective, okay? It really is. It's really helped me grow as a person. But in terms of the effectiveness of the activism, all these pictures go on social media, okay? And there's this one right here of the pig covered in blood. This went viral, okay? So this was posted a lot of times by a lot of vegan influencers as well. And it was a really, really powerful thing. So this, however, it's not an isolated incident, okay? I don't want anyone to think that for 1 second, that this doesn't happen every day, because it does. When this pig came to the farm, we stopped the trucks and we bore witness to the animal, and because they were covered in blood, a member asked if they can see a vet, because I don't know, don't quote me on this, but I don't believe an animal can be sent to slaughter if they're injured. So we asked for them to see a vet, and the farmers laughed at us. They scoffed, they mocked, they said, "This happens all the time, pigs play fight, pigs get their ears caught in the bars sometimes, like it always happens. They're always covered in bruises and blood, it's very natural," which was obviously very upsetting to hear. So there wasn't really anything we could do. The animals were taken away and killed anyway. So, as I say, this wasn't an isolated incident. Every time we go to a slaughterhouse, there are animals arriving covered in blood, covered in feces, covered in urine, covered in bruises and blood and scars, and it's a really horrible thing to see. And a lot of these animals come from freeholders. So these are people who like to class themselves as organic, free range, Red Tractor approved, RSPCA approved. There's got to be some more that they throw out there. Whatever they use to kind of make you feel better about abusing animals. And it is abuse. I don't want anyone to think it isn't. So, as I say, this is not an isolated incident, okay? All the time we come and see animals who are bruised and blooded and scarred and terrified, absolutely terrified. However, the slaughterhouse that we hold our vigils at recently came out with something very interesting. They said, and I quote, "Due to persistent activism and a drop in demand, we are going to stop killing pigs." This is huge, and this just shows how effective bearing witness actually is. So due to the persistent activism, we've spoken to enough drivers, spoken to enough members of the public, that the demand has dropped to such a degree that they have stopped killing pigs. This is absolutely huge. So I'm going to move on to this one. This is a really beautiful picture of a cow. This wasn't the cow that I'm going to mention in this story, but I really want to share something with you all that really touched my heart, and I feel that it will hopefully touch yours. I remember myself and Mark, the other organizer, we were down on one of the fields watching the animals come out of the trucks and got led to the kill floor. Okay, this is what we were watching, and it's a horrible thing to see. Now bear in mind, I have never seen one animal willingly get off the trucks, ever, not once. It doesn't happen. I don't want anyone to think that animals are stupid, because they're not. If you have a dog or a cat at home, you know they're not stupid. They might not be as intelligent as you on some levels, but they're not stupid, okay? They can smell the blood, they can smell the fear, they know exactly what's happening, so they don't get off the trucks. However, the story that I want to talk about is something that happened with a spent dairy cow. Now, for those who don't know what a spent dairy cow is, it's basically a mother who has been abused for 5 to 6 years in the dairy industry, where they suck her milk dry until they can't get any more milk from her, because that's what we want from them. And when they can't take any more milk, they take the last thing that she has left, which is her life. And this is what she was doing here on this day. And I remember the door opened, and this man dressed in white tried to get her off, and she didn't. So they refer to pushing, and they beat, and they poke, and they jab, and they do whatever it takes to get them off. Eventually she did get off, and she was walking towards the kill floor, and all of a sudden she just stopped dead in her tracks. I don't know why. To this day I don't know why she suddenly stopped. Her head was just hanging low. I have never seen a more depressed looking animal in my entire life. She looked like she had just completely given up. I can only imagine the torment and fear that she had gone through for 5 to 6 years. Bear in mind, cows can live between 20 to 25 years naturally. So these are little babies, they're 5 years old, absolutely terrified. She would have had her children stolen from her. She would have had her milk drained for 5 years. No love, no compassion, no freedom. And then when she can't produce the one thing that we want from her, we send her to be stabbed in the neck. If that's not abuse, I certainly don't know what is. So she came off the truck, and the thing that upset me the most was the state of her udder. It was pretty much black. It was covered in boils, and it's giving me goosebumps now just thinking about it, covered in boils and pus and blood and God knows what else. But the thing that really touched my heart and made me go teary on the day, I could still see the milk dripping from her udder, where she had been abused to the point where she couldn't even hold it in anymore. I've never seen a more abused animals. And I have seen animals in so much pain and fear. You know, my dog died in my arms. I've been on the side of the road with foxes recently after they've been hit by a car. Horrible things like this. But this was next level suffering. This was emotional suffering. This is something that I'd never seen before. Anyway, she stopped right where she was, and this man started trying to push her onto the kill floor. And she wouldn't budge. She stayed strong. And I think the fact that she was so much stronger than him affected his ego, you know, so he called over another worker. Now there's 2 fully grown sized men pushing this innocent, beautiful dairy cow onto the kill floor, and it didn't work. They still weren't strong enough. So they called over a 3rd man, and at this point my friend Mark, the other organizer, rightfully shouted out at the top of his lungs. He shouted, "She doesn't want to die." And these men laughed at that and continued to push her either way. And I remember the 3rd man turned his back and he put his hands under her legs and was pushing with all his might. His feet were slipping under the gravel. It was making the worst sound imaginable. And they were just pushing her, and her foot would go forward and then she'd bring it back, and then the other foot forward and the other foot back, and she stayed strong till the end. So they called over a 4th man now, 4 fully grown sized men pushing this beautiful creature into a room where someone was waiting with a bolt gun. And unfortunately for her, 4 men had enough power to unfortunately take her into the kill floor. I didn't hear anything, it just went silent. You know, I think at that point, she just accepted it. I almost think, and you know, some people get angry at me for saying this, but I actually think she wanted to die. I think she had enough. I mean, I'm sure everyone here would, you know, being abused for 5 to 6 years, you didn't know anything else. You're going into a room where someone's waiting with, you know, a piece of equipment that's just going to end it. I mean, I know what I would do. So after that, you know, I was exceptionally angry at these, I don't even want to say men, these people who pushed her into a room where someone killed her. But now I look back and I feel sympathy. I feel sorry for them. You've got to be so freaking disconnected from your heart space to willingly push an animal into a room where someone is going to shoot them in the head and stab them in the throat. They don't get pushed to their own deaths, they get pushed to their own murder. If someone shot you in the head and stabbed a knife in your throat, I wouldn't say that you died, I would say that you were murdered. Just because animals are a little bit different to us does not mean we need to use different words. It's frustrating for me when people say things like this, that they died or it was all humane, and that's not how it goes whatsoever. She was murdered. So that was something that I wanted to share with you. We need to stop thinking that animals aren't victims because they're not human. This is the main thing that everyone's got in their mind. From the day that we're born, we're raised to think that they are so different that it justifies us doing whatever the hell we want to them. We are more alike than we are dissimilar. We see this every single day. If this was happening to dogs or cats, it would be over in minutes. The police would be called, the people doing the killing would be arrested, and it would end. But just because they're cows, pigs, chickens, sheep, and whatever else, it's supposed to be fine. So many animals are killed, cows, sheep, but the majority of animals who are killed at Tottingworth happen to be pigs. As I say, Tottingworth have said that they're going to stop killing pigs now, which is amazing. But there is another slaughterhouse in Sussex. I'll answer your question at the end, buddy. So yeah, so they're going to be taken there, unfortunately, if people are still breeding them. And this is, it's just another haunting picture. I could talk about this one for just as long, but I'll try and cut it down. The thing that, again, upsets me about this is just the individuality. You look into their eyes and you can see all different states of terror. You can see confusion, you can see fear, you can see hopelessness, you can see hope, all different types. And it's so sad because, this one's got such beautiful, vibrant blue eyes. This one's got a lovely earthy brown, and they are so unique. And this is the problem that we face, is when the trucks do come up and you see 10, 20, 30 pigs all crammed into one space, you do just see numbers. But animals are not numbers, they are all individual. I'm looking out at all of you right now. You are all numbers to me, but I know deep down you are all individuals. This is the exact same thing with animals. It helps grow our community when we're together, okay? Fighting as one on the front line. Every time I see everyone out in front of the slaughterhouses, I see history in the making. I really do. I can see it being taught, in schools in the future. And community organising is something I just want to touch on briefly. If anyone is interested in coming to a vigil, I'm going to talk about that in a minute, which was going to be really great. But with the community organising, we don't want it to just be like, you go to a vigil, you go home, and then you're all depressed, and that's it. We want to build a community, and that's what we've done. So we try and hold socials as often as we can. This could be a variety of things. Sometimes we go out for drinks, sometimes we'll have a nice meal, and and it's good to kind of sit down and not have to talk about why you're eating a vegan meal. You can just get on and enjoy it. And yeah, we would just do a bunch of different things, really. Promote ourselves at places like this. This is Mark. And I just want to apologise one more time for his absence. It was really upset he couldn't join me today. As I say, it was meant to be a double act. But yeah, so community organising is super, super important for us. So I wanted to go on to something that's really important for me as well, which is self-care. But before I do, I'll just give you a minute to appreciate the cuteness of this picture. I'm talking about the chicks, not me and Mark, by the way. So self-care is super important, not just as organisers, but as human beings. We really understand this. I feel like self-care is neglected and overlooked in all aspects of life, really. Work, home, relationships, whatever it might be. But we try not to neglect this at vigils because we do understand that it can be a very scary place to be. It can be a very emotionally draining place to be. It can just be overall quite a depressing experience depending on how you see it. So self-care, what we like to do is, the majority of the time after a vigil, we like to go back to our friend's house, okay? Her name's Linda, and she owns an animal sanctuary, and she always welcomes us there with open arms. And this is where this picture was taken. And these two little chicks were rescued Every single animal at her sanctuary has a backstory. And these two little chicks were part of a school experiment. They were watching the hatching process. And when the chicks hatched, it was all happy days, and then move on to the next project, whatever that might be, and the chicks would have been probably thrown into a bag and suffocated. They would have been killed, but that's the way we tend to kill these little baby chicks, because they're no use to the egg industry, okay? So they're just put in a bag, suffocated, never seen again, job done. But luckily they were rescued, and here they are, and I'm glad to say that they have grown into full-size roosters. And when you show animals love from a young age, again, you'll notice this with dogs and cats that you have at home, they adopt that, okay? It becomes part of their personality. They really enjoy the feeling of love, and they'll run up to us, jump on our laps, they snuggle their little beaks into our necks, and we'll stroke them, and it's amazing. You don't see chickens and roosters doing that on a traditional farm, but on a sanctuary where all they know is love, they do just that. But as I said, there's a bunch of different animals there, over 80 animals consisting of, cows, pigs, chickens, sheep, little chicks, horses, all the animals that are found typically on a farm live here in peace and will do until the day that they die naturally, which is how it should be. So that's super important. And then after what we do in terms of the self-care is we get together, we make sure that everyone feels okay, we make sure that everyone's all right. We'll have some food, have some drinks, run around, do whatever the thing vegans do. And we go into the woods. And going into the woods actually is something that I like to do. I like to, after a vigil, I like to be very present. I don't like to think about the past. I don't like to think about the future, because when you think about the past too much, I think about those little animals. It's especially on the day of a vigil, it really affects me. So like the night before, I'll think about the animals who are sleeping, all curled up, all happy, probably got some food in their stomach, not knowing what's going to happen the next day. And that really affects me. That actually stops me from sleeping. So I like to be very present after a vigil. That's my self-care. Fitness is important, nutrition is important. Probably don't need to talk to you about nutrition, because if you're all vegan, you're probably already healthy anyway. But like I say, we go into the woods, which is great. I absolutely love that bit. And then we'll sit around a tree. It's a big oak tree. It's something like 200 plus years old. And then some of the more crazy members of the group, i.e. myself, will climb this tree and take a picture of the group. And that's exactly what I'm going to show you next. Which brings me on to pretty much the last question that I have from you all. Cut it a little bit short. Why you should get involved? Okay. It's a huge question. I think it kind of speaks for itself. The majority of us, if not pretty much all of us here today, weren't born vegan, okay? We paid for animals to be killed on our behalf. So I believe that we have a moral duty to be there for them now. If we've stopped paying for this to happen, doesn't mean that we have to just ignore it. Okay, we need to be there, we need to tell them we're sorry, we need to film them, we need to put it on social media, we need to get people involved. It's so important. It gives you a new sense of meaning in life, it gives you a new sense of purpose. You realise that you're on the right side of history, you realise you're doing the right thing, and you realise that you are liberating these animals. Yes, they die, but on a grander size scheme, it's so much more than that. It's that picture, all the pictures that you've seen today, these animals have died months and months ago, but you're looking at them right here today. Their images live online forever. It's so, so important. It has a profound effect when you put these images online, okay? I had someone come up to me yesterday and they were like, I look at all your Facebook posts, I look at all your Instagram posts, and it broke my heart, and I started looking into it, and it's helped me go vegan, and it's just like, what? Like, you just think you're kind of posting out, and the majority of response that you get tends to be abuse, but there's always someone listening, there's always someone watching. They might not like it, they might not comment, okay? But it doesn't mean that they're not looking. It's so, so important. Other reasons why you should get involved, like I said, I think it's really good for your mental health with the whole, feeling like you've got more of a purpose, more of a moral duty, being there for these animals. And just getting that connection back with them. When we're all kids, we have such a great connection with animals. We never want to hurt them, and if they do get hurt, we're the first one to protect them. But we lose that later on in life, only because we're taught, not by our parents, not by just by society. Okay, You know, if you were grown up maybe as a different religion, you'd have the same feelings towards cows or pigs. But, you know, growing up in the Western world, we're taught to love dogs and cats, but we're taught that, you know, cows, pigs, chicken, fish, yeah, you know, love them, but not for too long because they're going to die soon. And that's inherently wrong. So that's super, super important. You know, I'm going to be around for a little bit after this, so please come and see me if you have any other questions as to why you should get involved. I will have time just for 5 minutes of questions in a minute if you've got any. I'm just going to put up one last slide for everybody. So this is just our contact information. I really, really advise you jotting these down. If you've got your phone, go on it now. I'm not going to be like, get off your phone. All right, so go on, jot it down, take a picture if you want. Sussex Animal Save on Facebook, Instagram @Sussex Animal Save, and then the email sussexanimalsave@gmail.com. We're really consistent at replying on these, like very quickly. So any questions, please let us know. We're holding a vigil tomorrow, okay, at a place called Morley Farm. If you're interested, please come and speak to me afterwards. I'll give you all the details. It's going to be really, really important, and you know I'll be there. So you know. I'll look after you if you're not feeling too good. But if you have, you know, I would say don't wait. Okay, don't be like, okay, I might go to one next week, or I might, you know, inquire about this in a couple of weeks. I'm here right now in person, so please just come over and talk to me. Come over and see me. I'm not going to bite, and I'll help you with any further questions that you have. But that's pretty much all I wanted to say. I want to thank you so much for listening. That was really really important to kind of spread our message. But if you have any questions, I'm more than willing to answer them now. I think everyone's happy. Yeah.
When's the vigil going to be about?
When's it gonna tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So the one tomorrow is gonna be 7 in the morning to about 11. If anyone wants to come, it's not too late to pull a sickie at work. No, I'm joking. But yeah, we always let you know in advance. Okay, so if you follow us on Facebook, we'll let you know when it's coming, and then you can sort of book a holiday or whatever, or work around it. But they're really powerful. I think it's super important to make that connection with the animal, okay, that we once paid to be there in the first place. And now we can say goodbye to them our own way and try and liberate them. But unless you've got any final questions, that is, yeah, buddy?
Because it is such an overwhelming thing to do, go to a vigil and witness and bear witness.
Yeah.
What advice have you got for people that might be like into it, but they're a bit scared of being overwhelmed and not being able to take it emotionally? Like,
Yeah, of
what
course.
advice have you got for those people?
Of course, yeah, no, that's a really important question. He was just sort of saying how, you know, people really want to go, but then there's that sort of, you know, I don't know how I'm going to react. I might get too emotional, I might not be able to handle it, I might get angry. And that's totally normal, you know, I felt like that as well on my first vigil. I didn't know how I was going to react. I personally thought I was going to get very angry, but I didn't. And it's a very, you know, everyone reacts differently. But what I would say is, this might be really bad advice, but don't listen to your head as much. I say just listen to your heart. What's your gut telling you? And you just told me that you want to do it, but then there's the mind that's in the way saying, what if, what if, what if? You know, you can go there, you can hate it, you can go home and live the rest of your life. These animals, they get one life, right? This is it, it gets taken from them. So, if not for yourself, just do it for them, you know, try it. That's why I say, just try it. There's always people here like myself, you know, we're going to look after you, make sure you're okay. We always try and do something afterwards to bring you from that low to that high, especially when we go to the sanctuary. It's good to say goodbye to the victims and then hello to the survivors. It makes you feel good, makes you realise why you're doing this. But yeah, man, I would just say try and sort of just block out any what ifs, listen to what your heart's telling you. Your heart's telling you this is the right thing to do, I want to be there for them. And give it a shot, man, because, you know, I was the same. I didn't know if I wanted to go. I did, and now I'm an organiser talking to everyone here. So it opens up doorways. Do we have one more question over here somewhere? Yeah? Oh, yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah, definitely, yeah. Under 18s, dogs, whatever. Bring whoever you want. Yeah, we have children coming sometimes. I know that sounds a little bit crazy, but it's very powerful. You know, the more people, the better. Yeah, under 18s, absolutely. The only thing I would say is, you know, let them know exactly what's going to happen before they do show up. Yeah, another one?
Do you have any that are on weekends?
On weekends? No, man, only because, okay, I'll tell you this really quickly and then I've got to wrap up. Yeah, so it usually takes place on like a weekday, very early in the morning, so everyone who's going to work doesn't have to see it. Okay, if it happened on the weekends, on, you know, midday or whatever, everyone would see it and everyone would be like, oh, what's going on here? Oh my goodness, it's a truck full of pigs. Oh, no, don't really want to look at that. What does that mean? But because it happens so early in the morning, you know, on a Monday to Friday or whatever, People are going to work, people are at work, people just kind of turn a blind eye to it. They're just so focused on traffic that it doesn't bother them. So they kind of get it out of the way. But yeah, unfortunately, none at the weekends just yet, but we do a whole lot of other activism on the weekends, which I think you're going to hear about in the next talk. Okay, cool. That's me done. So thank you so much for being a great audience. Really appreciate it. And come and talk to me if you want to inquire further. Thank you.